Hey everybody, welcome back to We Are Podcast Network. This is We Are Bagu, Season 1, Episode 3, the Metroid Series, Part 1. If this is your first time checking out the podcast, thank you so much. Please go to your favorite podcast app, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, or iTunes, and give We Are Podcast a like. And if you get a chance, head over to our social media. All links can be found in the description. We're at Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at /We Are Podcast. With that said, on to the podcast.
We Are Bagu.
Hey everybody, welcome to We Are Bagu, where we talk Atari to Steam and everything in between.
Everything. Not excluding one thing.
Not
all
a
of the
single thing. This is Duck, and I'm here with
Ethan.
Thank you so much for listening. Like we said, we're going to talk some video games here, so we're going to get started right off the bat with some gaming news. Gaming news! Ba-do-ba-ba. I can't do what Hobby does. He's too good at it.
First on the list, Duck, have you heard of a game called Anthem?
I have heard of it, but I have no idea what it is.
So, Anthem is, or should I say was, a AAA game developed by BioWare. Long story short, it was a total flop.
Okay.
Ever since Christmas, the game has been torn to shreds. People have been leaving it behind. Hardly anyone's on it anymore.
Wow.
It was like bottom of the barrel of some of the biggest releases for a number of reasons. It was garbage.
Right.
Well, around Christmas time, the big thing for these new games to do is special limited time events. And Anthem was no exception to that. They had their Christmas event with special missions and cosmetics and all sorts of Christmassy stuff.
Do you know where that started? Irony of irony, Sonic Adventure. Sonic Adventure did a Halloween special DLC, and it did a Christmas special DLC.
Did they really?
Yes, they did. Sega was one of the first companies to do that. They incorporated it because the Sega Dreamcast used the modem, and so they wanted them to have DLC stuff. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Anyhow, back to Anthem.
Yet another reason Sonic Adventure is amazing.
It's terrible. Go back and listen to episode 1.
Yeah, go check out episode 1.
All right, so back to Anthem.
Anthem, right now they're stuck in a never-ending Christmas.
Oh, that's awesome!
No, this is bad. This is bad.
No, that sounds great. Dude, I could live in Christmas all the time. Just give me some Super Halloween on top of that shit, and I'd be happy as fuck.
The game has not received a patch or content update since they added this Christmas event.
So what are they doing? They're just ignoring it?
The studio has come out and said that they're going to do a complete rework of the game. I have not played it because it looked like total garbage. And the biggest complaint right now is the game itself was completely different from what was shown at E3 when they initially revealed the game.
Right.
It was seamless transitions, this cool sort of Iron Man suit based, almost like Iron Man meets Mass Effect.
Okay.
If that does anything for you.
It sounds good to me. I mean, you said BioWare. When you said BioWare, I'm like, how do they make something that's not good?
They make Anthem.
I mean, whatever.
I don't know.
They've been killing it for years, so it's shocking to hear that they're not killing it anymore. But, I mean, They're giving me what I want, which is never-ending Christmas. So who doesn't want that? Evidently, a lot of people.
A lot of people are upset that the game has pretty much just been abandoned because they're not adding anything new to it. That's what it sounds
like to me. It sounds like you remember in Family Guy whenever Peter Griffin was sitting there with his long nails going, "No, Lawanda, I can talk for a minute." It just sounds like they're just sitting back and doing jack shit, neglecting their job like the rest of us do.
I don't know, man. Hopefully they're going to come out and make the game something amazing, but
at this point, if they're allowing that to happen, that game is in the dirt.
EA is only going to put up with so much bullshit.
Now EA owns them now?
I believe so. At the very least, they're the publisher.
About? EA puts out half the bullshit in the fucking gaming community already. It's EA.
Fair point.
Yeah, they suck. Sponsored by EA.
Sponsored by EA. Huge shout out to EA, our sponsors.
And Blue Drink this week. Blue Drink. The makers of Purple Drink. Blue Drink.
It's not Powerade. Speaking of EA, they've reported earnings from this previous year. The big thing that people are really kind of losing their shit over is how much they made off of microtransactions.
Oh, you think? What?
Take a wild guess how much they made.
Oh, I'm guessing millions?
Way north.
11?
Just over $1 billion.
Oh, wow. Okay, I started with millions.
Billion.
You were not joking.
$1 billion.
Well, the question is it the loot crate aspect of it? What do they have? What is the big game right now that they're running that they're selling the crates?
It's the sports games.
Really?
Yes.
How?
They pump out a new Madden, FIFA, whatever, every year, right? A lot of people would argue it's the same game repackaged.
With a roster update. That's it.
It is.
We know for a fact they've done that in the past. They've released the same game with a roster update. That's it.
Yeah. Where they make the most of their money in those games, I think it's Fantasy Team or something like that, where you pay for the loot drop and it gives you random players of random value.
Genius.
Yeah, dude.
Fucking genius.
And you get these little cards for X player that has X stat. Of course, you're going to try to hit it to get your favorite player.
Right.
You know, you got to have JJ Watt if you're playing Madden.
It's
you got to have
Pokemon of fucking football. That's insane.
And dude,
Smart.
they're making bank off that.
Fucking smart. Yeah. Instead of saying, hey, you can buy your favorite guy here, that instead they're just going, hey, roll the dice and see what happens, baby.
Yeah, you might get it, might not. I mean, you see.
Oh, jeez, that's so fucking smart. You know what? Fuck EA, but seriously, fucking EA, right? Smart.
Dude.
Oh, damn.
It's clever.
What's next on the gaming news?
The gaming knows.
Gaming news.
Atari
Oh.
has been back in the news lately.
Ooh.
And not for what you'd think.
Oh.
They're coming out with a chain of hotels.
Yes,
all Atari themed.
I read that, and I actually thought about Nintendo in Japan. You know they have love hotels there.
Nintendo love hotels.
In Japan, it is not illegal to pay for sex. Okay?
Right.
In fact, it is not even morally looked down to it if you were married and you pay for sex. Enough people do it where they have a chain of hotels whose very purpose is to have themed rooms where you can go have sex in those hotels. And yes, they are basically whore hotels.
Well,
Is
I don't...
the Atari hotel going to be a sex hotel? Please? Oh, God, please?
Make love to Atari Pac-Man.
Oh, man.
Waka 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 waka.
He's going waka waka on my dick. I'm like, oh, this is what I
Oh,
wanted.
I hit a wall!
This is what I wanted.
What I thought was interesting for us especially...
Yeah, the prostitutes and stuff. I'm so down. Let's go.
They're building one in Austin, Texas.
Oh, I have a car, and I can find a prostitute in Austin, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm going to go in there and make a scene and go, this ain't Nintendo. Bullshit. Are they going to have Atari gaming there?
Oh, I don't doubt it.
Oh,
Dude, I mean...
Sweet. You throw me in bed with one of them ETs from Atari, I would fucking Atari ET. You wait and see. You better believe it. And he's like, Elliot. And I'm like, bitch, you call me what you want, motherfucker. I don't care. But yeah, I thought that was pretty sweet.
The last one I got today, though, is a big, big leap forward in cloud gaming.
Okay.
Especially. Do you know what Google Stadia is?
You literally went Atari to Steam. Okay.
Yeah, we're hitting everything in between.
Okay. Oh, well, Google Stadia.
Yes.
Which is the streaming service where you're playing the game remotely somewhere else, but it streams to your phone or tablet or TV or whatnot.
Stadia right now in its current shape and form is total garbage.
Right.
So it did not meet things they had promised, 4K resolutions and all of that.
Right.
And their library sucks ass, has not been updated in multiple months since the launch of the platform. Right now there are two big competitors that are just handing Google their own ass.
And who are those?
That would be Shadow. They've been around for a little while. Pretty much you get your own high-end PC in the cloud. You can access it anytime.
Right.
Their price is a little steep though. It works great. It's awesome. But they're not huge in the industry yet. NVIDIA, though, that is a huge name brand.
Really?
And they have actually launched it, and you can use it for free.
So the people who make the graphic cards are providing the service for you to stream?
Yes.
That's crazy. My friend Jesse, Pluty Toots, got on that early, about 11 or 12 years ago. He was streaming that way. He got in on the beta of that, and he tried to get me in on it, and my internet wasn't fast enough for it to really work. But I remember him showing me Batman Arkham something running on
like
it.
Arkham Asylum or
like the
Arkham
first
City?
One. It was the first one, I think, running on it. And he was just like, this is the future. And I was like, yeah, this is cool, but no one's ever going to be able to run this shit. And no one has fast enough internet. Of course, 10 years later.
Yeah.
I mean,
now
that's
it's
what
built
they're really
up to
pushing.
where it's passable.
To the point where are the next generation consoles going to be just giant stream machines?
Probably not the next gen, but probably the generation or two after.
Do you think that will change the market completely?
Oh, 100%. I think it's going to put physical copies...
To shame! To shame!
No, they're going to go the way of like vinyl records or something for collectors, you know, you and me who like having that actual physical copy and go...
Well, I'll be honest with you. I don't mind not having a physical copy of something.
I don't
notice
either
that
anymore.
most of my collection is not physical copies.
But it's older stuff that you like to hang on
Exactly. If it's not Nintendo, that's up there. So I'd rather have the console. The original console means more to me.
Yes.
And have like a multi-cart or something like that. And unless it's a game that actually has nostalgic value to me, I don't care. You can throw it on a multi-cart. You can, I mean, shit. You know, I'm not against emulation. You can leave that in. I don't care. As long as I can play the game. And things like collecting, if I had the money, sure, I'd be there. But unless you are a YouTuber who's showing off your collection in the background, chances are you don't have that kind of money.
Fair enough.
But it is fun to collect, and I think there will be... I think that there's that fine line between digital and a physical copy of something.
What kind of sucks, too, is we're going to end up losing being able to take your game over to your friend's house and y'all being able to trade games or share games or things like that.
Which people still do. Yeah, I guess there is a part of that. Yeah, you're right. People still do trade games. I know that. And that's kind of cool, or show off a game to somebody's house. But at the same time, a lot of people just play online stream like we did the other day with Left 4 Dead.
There's going to be a whole new way of doing that, and it's going to shift, and certain aspects of that are going to be lost. But at the same time, we'll be able to share play or stream or do whatever, and everyone's going to be on an equal playing field when it comes to having the hardware.
And I also like a lot of these repos that are coming out. Metal Storm for the original Nintendo, they have done a repo of that with the original company, which is Engine, I think. I think that's who it is. I don't know.
You lost me, bud.
Metal Storm is a classic Nintendo game that maybe I'll have to show you. And it is a lot of fun to play, and it's challenging. But they did a new cart for it where it's actually a reproduction cart where you can put it in the NES and play it. And it is the Japanese version of the game translated, which is even better because it had cutscenes. I will show you that at some point.
Yeah, I want to check it out.
All right. So we're going to get into our subject tonight. Me and Ethan both have different views on this. I am an old school gamer. Ethan's a little bit younger. He likes newer stuff. So I think we have a nice combination of both to talk about our subject tonight, which is Metroid.
Metroid.
It's a game I love. Now, the reason I say it that way is I can't say Metroid right. I say it like...
You mean Metroid?
I can't say it right. I say it like Christopher Walken. And everyone's always pointed this out to me. I say Metroid, and it comes off like Metroid. It's my favorite game. So this game series has 14 games in all, and it spans from almost the beginning of the Nintendo generation to now, and we're about to get the fourth and the biggest series, I would say, in that series itself, the Prime series.
Oh, I'm
When
excited.
will it be released? We don't know, but we can go
3
back
years.
and start from the process.
I think it's going to be 3 years.
Probably, but it'll be worth the wait. But we'll get there and we'll talk about it.
Yep.
So let's start off with where Metroid came from.
Metroid.
It was the brainchild of Gunpei Yokoi, who was the creator of the Game & Watch, the Game Boy. I would also say I think he had a hand in Kid Icarus too.
Do you want me to hum the theme song while you?
Yeah, I guess you can. For what? for Metroid, yeah. So there he was, Gunpei Yokoi, on the edge of the building of Nintendo, which might be true, actually. Alright, so Gunpei Yokoi, he and R&D 1, which developed most of the software for Nintendo, they were tasked with creating games. So he took the idea, a Metroid, and he took it to 3 different people, and they really were the brainchild of this. First would be the director. I'm going to butcher these names because I'm a round eye.
I believe in you.
Yoshi Sakamoto directed the game.
Yoshi Sakamoto.
You want to keep that in there?
I don't know. We'll see.
All right. Makoto Kano created the characters and scenario.
Makoto Kano.
And Hiroshi Kiyotake designed Samus, the Metroid, bosses Ridley.
Say it again.
Samus.
Samus.
What do you want it? What do you want it? Is it Samus or Samus?
It's Samus.
Are you sure?
I'm 100% sure it's Samus.
I think it's Samus. I've always thought it was Samus because the commercials in the 90s said Samus. That's why. Isn't that fucked up?
There's an A, not a U.
Samus. All right. Well, we'll probably say Metroid wrong and Samus wrong.
Metroid.
And anyhow, he designed Samus. Is that what you said?
Yeah, Samus.
Oh.
Samus.
All right. The Metroid bosses Ridley and Kraid and the Mother Brain. So these guys basically got together and they were on a time crunch and they had to create the game in a very limited amount of time. The idea they had was to take Super Mario Brothers platforming and mix it with The Legend of Zelda's exploration. And that's where you get this hodgepodge of those 2 games. The other thing is they wanted to create a game that felt dangerous and mature, and it really did create an atmosphere. The original Metroid has a very claustrophobic feeling to it, and a mix with the music, which I can't think of who was the composer, but I feel bad because he should get major kudos.
Dude, the music in all of these Metroid games, they make it.
And that's what I'm saying. It really adds to the ambiance and really creates that
foreboding atmosphere,
feeling. Feeling of like you are in trouble. The other thing that they did so well was creating a lot of gameplay mechanics that really came into play later in the series and were perfected. But the original...
They defined a whole genre.
I mean,
this is half of Metroidvania.
You're right. They did. And it's its own thing. The idea of exploration, the idea of backtracking, the idea of having to solve a puzzle to get the next power-up so that you can actually move on to the next area.
And you can solve the next puzzle.
It's
and
all
the next
in
puzzle,
the original
and the
game.
next one.
The other thing is the exploration aspect of it. In the original Metroid, and we'll say it,
Metroid.
it was released on the Famicom Disk System originally, okay? And the idea, along with The Legend of Zelda, is it allowed more space for them to create a game. Now, we never got the Famicom Disk System in America. We just got cartridges that they found a way that they could double the space, triple the space on. But in Japan, you would have got the small little floppy disk for this. And it actually has a save state on the original Famicom Disk System game. Whereas in the American game, we got a password system, which eventually could be exploited to do some pretty cool shit. Came out in 1986, a year after I was born. And this game, like we talked about already, it drops you into a desolate landscape, and it says, hey, you got two choices. Go left, or you can go right. So if you go right, you're eventually going to hit a dead end, and you have to go back and go left so you can get the morph ball so that you can crouch down and get back going right. And that begins the idea of the exploration. It doesn't explain anything to you. It says, here you are. Give it a go. See what you can do. And the game is designed in such a way that each level that you go through, you learn a new skill, and you go, well, how can I use this skill? So you have to backtrack. You have to go and check out every nook and cranny of the game. You have to find a way. And with that limited amount of life that you're given, you're like, man, I'm screwed because I'm getting hit left and right by these space creatures.
And then you start finding ways to upgrade your life. You
Absolutely.
get energy tanks, and you're able to have more health, last longer. You get stronger weapons. You get weapons that can go through walls, go through enemies,
Right.
freeze them.
And it just slowly builds upon itself. And that idea that you have in The Legend of Zelda where you beat a dungeon and you get a power-up in that dungeon so you can go to the next place. This is a little bit different because there's no dungeons. Just a large map that you have to go back and forth through and see what you can find.
It's a system of locks and keys.
Yeah.
Which, there's a series I watch on YouTube called Boss Keys. I think it's Game Developers Toolkit or something.
He's killing it.
Dude.
He's killing it.
He nails it. Every time. It's locks and keys. You find a lock, you need to go search out the key for it, and it's this repetitive pattern of find the lock or find a key and then find the lock it goes to, or vice versa. And it works, man. I mean, 14 games in the same series, and we're still waiting on the next one to come out.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited for the next entry in the series.
Well, that's the thing, though, too. You got to remember, you're excited. I'm excited. This game was not a hit in Japan at all. This is an American game, and they sometimes say because of the mature atmosphere of the game, that might be why. Now, the game obviously pulled inspiration from the movie Alien. Ridley Scott's Alien.
For sure.
1979, that bad boy came out, to the point where one of the bad guys, the mini-bosses, is named Ridley. And the director of that movie was Ridley Scott. So that is one inspiration. The second, even bigger inspiration I would have to say, though, is the fact that Samus, did I say it right?
You said it. Yeah, you got
Samus,
it. You nailed it.
Which you don't know when you're playing that game. You just see a cyborg creature on the screen.
Spaceman with a shooting gun.
You don't know what's going on. And if you read the manual, like I did, because I love to look through the manuals, it very specifically states that Samus is a man.
Wait, what?
Yes, in the original manual, it says he. So that reveal at the end of the game that Samus was da-da-da-da, a woman, was shocking. And we were kids, we were like, what? Word? We just went on this adventure as a girl? And it was crazy. And then if you beat the game in the right amount of time, you know what happened. You got Samus, you got her in a bathing suit. Which, when you were a kid, you were like, oh,
I was going to say, there was passwords you could put in that
There was, but people didn't know about that. Let's talk about that real quick, though. Because they implemented the password system in the American game, there were.
Yeah, little secrets. I wouldn't call them cheat codes, but...
Well, the two big ones is the Narpus Sword code, okay? Narpus Sword gives you everything, plus it gives you a freeze ray that's not in the original game. It's a different sprite for the freeze ray. And they considered maybe it was the debug mode of that game. But the one we always knew was the Justin Bailey code.
Yes.
And Justin Bailey, I don't remember how we found out where it was, but it's really great. It starts you out in warfare. You have all these missiles, and you have like the spin attack, the screw attack. You've got everything. And on top of that, Samus is in a bathing suit if you use that code. And it's super fucking cool. And that's the one I always use when I want to play the game really quick, because I believe the mini-bosses are even beat after that, too. You have to go beat them. So you can just head right towards the warfare, and get to the mother brain and just kill that bitch.
Yeah, you can pretty much just blow through the whole game.
I will say, having played it when I was a kid, did you ever play the original Metroid?
Oh, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was your experience playing that? Where did you get that original?
I played it on the Game Boy Advance, so it was a port of the original game, but it's...
Are we talking about Metroid Zero Mission?
No. There was 2.
Yes.
So
they released the NES Classic. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yes, the NES Classic.
Okay.
That's the one I played. And I haven't played it on original hardware, but I feel the NES Classic version was identical to it.
It probably is. I would say it's got to be identical to it, right?
It would have
because it has
to
the
be.
password screen, right?
Yeah.
I think all those are just ports of the NES titles.
It would have to be. So, I mean, I don't know if I ever beat it all the way through, but I know I made it really far in that game at least.
Now, did you play it on a Game Boy Advance or a Game Boy SP? Because
SP.
So you had the backlight, so you could actually see what you were doing. Because I can't imagine what that would look like on the original
I had
Game
both. I actually broke my original Game Boy Advance.
Did you throw it in anger from playing Metroid?
Actually, I either hit it with my forehead or something like that, and it cracked the LCD.
Yeah, fuck it.
So, I don't know. I was a dumb kid.
I mean, things happen.
But, hey man, that SP had a nice backlight.
Oh, absolutely. The SP was killing it. So what was it about that game? Was that the first Metroid games you ever played? Or
no.
Okay. What was it about that one, though, that you feel like you were like, I get this? Or do you feel like you had a different perspective, like, this is dumb. Why do they like this?
It was one of those things that I tried to get it. I kind of had a respect for it when I was younger, but I didn't get it, if that makes sense.
Right.
I'd play through, I'd get the Morph Ball, I'd get a couple of the upgrades, but then I'd just get lost and go, okay,
I'm good.
Well, I'll come back to it later at some point, and then I turn it off and go play Super Mario Bros. 3.
Well, there's a good point, though. There is no overarching map in this game. You cannot see where you are at. Unless you put one in your head, or you're writing it down on paper, or you got one to cheat off of, you really got to memorize it. And there are a couple dead ends in the game where there is no way to get out of them, really, other than to jump, and pray to God that you can get out of those. But that's the other thing, is Metroid is a game that's barely working half the time. So there's a lot of glitches in that game, and there's a lot of ways to really, what's the word I'm looking for? Really
break the game.
Yeah, to break the game, and to use those glitches to beat it quicker or to do some crazy shit. And that's speed running has been attached to this game for so long.
To the whole series.
Even more so the third game, but this one, you can do speed run on this one too. The last thing I want to say is I loved this game when I was a kid because it scared me. And that's why I enjoyed it so much. And I was a chicken shit of a kid. Like, I can't even explain to you how much of a chicken shit I was.
You're not alone, but we're not there yet, so I'll hold on to that story for a minute.
This game, though, freaked me the fuck out, and I loved it. And it was my first introduction to something like, that's terrifying. There's something in this, and even to this day, even talking about this, I'm probably going to have nightmares tonight, because Metroid freaks me the fuck out. It just holds that place in my childhood where I'm like, this is dangerous, and this is scary. And I love it. And it was always that Halloween aspect of it. I'm like, there's something wrong on this fucking night going on. There's something wrong in this fucking game. And I loved it. So Mother Brain. We got to talk about the Mother Brain real quick. And I almost forgot. So what we're looking at is that area. Torian is one of the most terrifying areas in video game history. When you drop down, first you have to open the bridge. You have to defeat both Ridley and Kraid and get that bridge opened up so you can go there. And once you decline in that elevator, and it's the most atmospheric music. It just sounds like bubbles, and that's what it sounds like. And there's little Cheerios floating at you. And you're like, what the fuck are these Cheerios? And then when you see the big old jellyfish coming to get you, and it latches onto you, and you just start losing your energy like crazy, and you're freaking out, and you're like, how do I kill this? How do I kill this? You gotta tuck into a ball, and you have to hit the button, and then you blast out, and then it's back on you like a motherfucker. And you're like, what do I do? What do I do? You have to get the Ice Beam to defeat these fuckers. Ice Beam, 5 missiles, boom, baby, you're good to go. So, it's terrifying, and playing through that's scary.
That's
Every
the first time
you.
That's the first time you actually see the Metroids too.
Yes, yes, it is, and it's terrifying, and you understand why. The game is technically called Metroid for a different reason, but they called these creatures Metroid, and they're really scary, and they built the lore around them eventually.
Oh, dude, all of these games revolve around the Metroids.
So going down through Torian, getting to the space computer that is the organic space computer Mother Brain. And whenever you get down to the bottom of that stage, and you're literally in the belly of the beast, you have these glass beakers basically that have the Mother Brain going throughout them, and you have to shoot them so they disappear so you can open the path. And then you get the little Cheerios coming at you and the little laser beams, and you see this fucking giant brain in the jar at the end of it.
And it looks disturbing as fuck. It's
nasty.
Creepy.
It's nasty as shit. Like that sprite
awesome.
work is so good. And you shoot it, and it breaks open the glass, and then you keep shooting that fucker. And hopefully you dodge the Cheerios, and hopefully you dodge the laser beams, and hopefully you got enough missiles to kill. And that music is ominous.
It's a pretty hard boss fight, too.
It's intense, man. It's very intense. But there's nothing that feels better than whenever you see that final missile hit.
And it just explodes.
But then what happens is the countdown begins. What the fuck is
this? Dude, a Metroid staple, man.
That is where it hits, man.
You don't just beat the boss.
You have to get the fuck out of there as things are happening and shit's exploding around you. See, it's more intense in my head. It was just a timer that counted. But in my head, it's like shit's exploding and stuff's going down.
Dude, this is shit that they've kept and carried over, and they've held on to that feeling throughout the entire series.
But that's that final moment of panic. That's that final adrenaline rush because you've been on edge the whole time going down through this. And then you defeat the Mother Brain, and then you got to go back up to get to your ship. That's when it's done. But that clock, that countdown, whew, that gets the heart racing, my friend, because you don't expect. You're like, wait, what? There's no timer throughout the rest of the game. You're never timed. You've got all this time to explore as much as you want, and all of a sudden they hit you with that, fucking mind blowing, man. Mm-hmm. And then, like I said before, you get the ultimate mind blow after that, where if you get the good ending, you get to see a woman in a bikini. 8 bits of glory, my friend. Yeah. Hey everyone, it's just Duck jumping in here real quick to say thank you so much for checking out the podcast today. If you're enjoying it, please head over to your favorite podcast app, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, iTunes, and give We Are Podcast a like. And if you get a chance, head over to our social media. All links can be found in the description. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at /We Are Podcast. And if you're enjoying the podcast today, please share with your friends. It's the only way we can grow this network. With that said, back to the podcast. All right, so when I was a kid, I remember we would sometimes stay out in the tent in the yard with our cousins, okay? And just kind of chill out there. And my cousins would tell horror stories, or my brothers would tell horror stories, and I'd sit there and be scared as shit. And I'm pretty sure they put us out in the tent because my dad was trying to get laid. I'm 100% positive that was going on because...
All right, y'all, outside.
I'm pretty sure he said, he goes, I'm trying to get some. And I was like, go out to your tent.
Get some what? Get some candy?
But I'll never forget... Yeah, no. I didn't want to know. I'm just like, oh, God, here we go. So I remember staying in a tent one night, my cousin telling a terrifying story about this bear that clawed through the tent. He was like, my grandpa Greenwald's the bear clawed right through the tent. I'm literally 6 months ago, I text my brother and I go, he was fucking lying. It hit me. It was like, finally, it was like, he was telling a story. He's like, yeah, he was telling a story. I was like, I thought it was real. He's like, how would he survive? I'm like, I don't know, I'm an idiot. But I remember the next morning going into the house, and my brother was playing the original Metroid, and he was in a Kraid's lair of the game and just climbing up the blocks and making them disappear and climbing up the blocks. And the little buggy-eyed thing was climbing down it. And I just remember the do-do-do-do-do-do-do, which is the music in there.
Isn't that
It's Kraid's theme, man. And I just remember thinking, like, this game is fucking awesome. Like, I love this. And that was the beginning of my true obsession with that game and that series.
So then, what is our rating for the first and original Metroid game?
10 for it. Are you kidding me? Yeah, it's a hard 10.
No, that is wrong.
Oh, that's right. It's an S rank.
It is E to S rank.
You're right. It's an S rank for me, my friend. It is 100% an S rank. How about you?
That is an A rank for me, because there are games later on in the series that I think topped it. I mean, it's a great game, don't get me wrong, but I think they can do better.
All right. We gave our rankings for that game. Hey everyone, just jumping in here about midway through the podcast. I want to say thank you so much for listening. If you have not subscribed, please go to Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, iTunes, and subscribe to our channel. Check us out once again on YouTube at youtube.com/QuackAttack5000. And if you're a fan of what we're doing, check us out on social media. We got Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, all of it, /QAttack5000. Links are in the description. Back to the show. Let's move on to Metroid 2, The Return of... Is it Samus or Samus? The Return of... Samus? I'm never going to get it right, dude. You're fucking with me.
I have not played this game. I know the story of it, though.
Okay.
Because I do keep up, or I have kept up with Metroid lore up to this point.
So November 1991, this game releases, and I just watched the commercial, and it brought back a flood of memories of being excited. We used to go watch, like, Power Rangers and shit like that at my grandparents' house on one of these floor model TVs. And they would always show the commercial for that. And I wanted to play it so bad. Luckily, I did get to play it. Not so much on the Game Boy, but the Super Game Boy. When that was released for the Super Nintendo, on the front cover of the Super Game Boy is Samus standing in front of her ship with the different colors. And actually, they programmed the Super Game Boy to run that game with color specifically. So
that was one of those select games that it would actually colorize.
And that game is really good. It's a little bit different than the original game, and it's a little bit different than what will be the peak game in the series, in my opinion. But there is exploration in the game. There is backtracking. The story is, basically you have to go to the Metroid home world. I can't remember what the name of it is. And SR or something.
SR388.
Oh, Ethan, very nicely done.
Dude, I'm
very
up on my Metroid lore.
But basically, she has to go there and exterminate all the Metroids. What's so cool about going here is you have this world full of Metroids.
Metroid.
And not only are they just the jellyfish creatures, but they actually evolve and change.
Since they're actually in their home turf, they are able to reach their true form and reach adulthood.
Right, and this game plays heavily into aliens. If the first game is Alien, this game is Aliens. Mm-hmm. And you have the beta, the zeta, the gamma. You have so many different versions of it. And they are scary. Even on a little monochrome 4-bit whatever machine, hearing the sound effects of the coming at you, it scares. Like when I was a kid, I was like, "Oh fuck this!" and I threw it. Like it scared me.
Oh, actually, that's a lie. I have played Metroid 2, but it's not the true Metroid 2. It was AM2R.
Yes, and we will talk about that in a second. Let's talk about this game has a different progression than the first game. This game, you actually, as you defeat a certain level of Metroids, it will reveal more game. Okay.
Yeah, it's not so much about the upgrades. It's more can you hunt out?
Yeah, you drain the landscape, and then as you do, you can kind of. It's like a Christmas tree. You start on top, and it branches out, and maybe an anthill is a better description.
But the thing is they make it very clear that this is an extermination mission,
right?
And you are killing
these bitches
the environment, man.
Yeah, these motherfuckers are going out.
Would that be a genocide of a species?
I think it is. I think that was the point. They were like, we can't do this anymore.
They're too dangerous.
We need to get rid of them. This game also introduces the suit, which is most known with the big round...
Varia suit.
Yeah, with the big round shoulders.
Yeah.
I believe the Varia suit's in the first game, but obviously it only changes the color of the character. This game actually changes the model of the character.
Varia suit originally was just the color. They didn't actually change the sprite too much.
But because the Game Boy didn't have a color palette, they had to find another way to show that. So they gave the big old circular shoulder pads.
And that became the iconic Samus.
Absolutely. The other thing it introduces is the ball, instead of just having the bombs, which are super important in the first game.
Super bombs?
This game, it introduces the spring ball, and it introduces the...
Spider ball.
Spider ball, that's right. Thank you. Yeah, so you can actually see the entirety, and it gives you a map. It's a very limited map, but it is a map.
It's a map, nonetheless.
It's a map. It's very limited. This game, the one final thing I want to say about it is the final boss battle.
And the ending.
Yes, the final boss battle and the ending of this game, superb. Same thing, you have to go against the Queen Metroid. And that bitch is a bitch. Oh my god, that is a scary ass fight. But you know how you beat it? You duck in the corner and you just shoot missiles and hope for the best.
The ending is you don't actually kill all the Metroids.
That's right.
You destroy all of them except one. And it's a little baby Metroid hatchling. And you walk past it, and this, it's like a little pod or an egg or something. It cracks open, hatches, and the Metroid just floats around you.
Yep.
And then you start your big trek back up through this barren and empty landscape, and there's just this ominous music playing. You're contemplating what you just did, and you're slowly making your trek back up to your ship.
It's almost like a horseshoe. It comes full circle because you leave on the right side and you come back to your ship on the left side. Mm-hmm. And it's really cool that you just have this little Metroid that's like circling around you. And there's nothing said, but you get it. You're like, oh, this thing thinks it's mother.
Yeah.
It's enough storyline. And like you said, you've went and eradicated your entire species, and now you are responsible for this small one that was just born. And it is imprinted on you. Little did we know that would play so big into the next game in the series, which I consider the best game in the series. So what is our ranking for this one?
Seeing as how I played AM2R rather than the original, and it varies slightly in some of its upgrades and items and gameplay and whatnot, I enjoyed AM2R.
Right.
I'll stick with A.
Yeah. I'll give this one a B for the Game Boy, and as for the remakes, AM2R is fucking amazing, and if you haven't found it out there, I highly suggest you go download it. It's hard to find because Nintendo shut it down because it was a fan-made remake of the game.
But it was so well done. Nintendo, I don't know if you'll listen to this podcast or anyone working at Nintendo, y'all are crazy if you don't hire those people to help you out on future Metroid titles because they get it. They get the story, they get the lore, they get the feeling, the mood, how everything should look and feel and play, and they just get it, man.
And honestly, they shut it down because they ended up releasing Return of Samus on the Nintendo 3DS.
Oh, 100%.
As a remake. And that remake is pretty tight, too, but it is very different than the original game. You talk about a remake.
It's different.
They went to town.
It's a remake, not a remaster.
Yeah, it's so different, but it is a fun game. But I would say if you're looking for classic Metroid 2 meets Metroid 3, go with AM2R.
I think I'd pick AM2R over Samus Returns.
I think I would agree with you.
Over the 3DS remake.
I knew what you meant, and I agree with you. But I will say play all three and see which one you like the best.
Yeah, they're all fun in their own right,
I will give it, you gave it an A rank because you were fair. On the Game Boy, I'll give it a B rank. It's
Game Boy...
It's good, but it's not where it needs to be, and a lot of people agree with that, but I enjoy the game.
Game Boy version, from what I've seen, I'd give it a solid C.
Let's move on to Super Metroid, which Metroid we could literally do an entire episode on, I think. So this is going to be a rough one to condense, but we need to for time's sake.
Yeah, because there's other ones that I want to spend a little more time on.
Right. So let's talk about Super Metroid, April 18th, 1994. The story, simple. The game begins with a cutscene showing you the devastation of a space station and what happened. And you just hear the classic, and you just hear a pulsing and a little chirping in the background. And as it shows the cinematic opening, almost like Terminator in the way that it opens. Very dark, very gritty. And as it goes, it moves out and you just see the devastation and the scientists laying on the ground. The only other time you ever see human characters in these original games. And you see the little Metroid in his cage and the little tube just chirping away. And it plays the classic dun 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 dun. Begins. It just sets the atmosphere. It sets that this is something different. It's very cinematic. And when you start the game, you get the actual voiceover, where it says the last Metroid is in captivity. The galaxy is at peace. Oh, I'm getting chills just thinking about this game.
Oh, yeah, dude.
Let me grab my cartridge. I'm holding my Super Nintendo cartridge right now. Oh, the big one. I mean, it's not
the big one with the big T-shirt in it.
Oh, so good. So the game begins with that cinematic opening, and then it moves to Samus giving a narrative over it, explaining what happened in the last game. Well, the first game and the last game. She talks about defeating the Mother Brain in the first game. She talks about finding the baby Metroid, not Baby Yoda, even though he's cute too.
The child.
Wow, that's a big Metroid. And the second game, and then giving it to the research space station, but then getting the distress beacon, and then you head towards the space station. Zoom right into that bitch. And the game begins by actually opening up by you kind of going down the path that you went in the original game at the end, into the space station, and you meet up with the first mini-boss, which is now the main villain in a lot of ways of the series, which is Ridley. Oh, purple Ridley in 16-bit, man. That shit is scary.
That whole game in general is just gorgeous.
Oh, it's beautiful.
The pixel art is amazing. The boss fights are fun, and they're intimidating. They're evil looking. It's just
I'm just
so
playing
good.
them over in my head. It's terrifying. You were right. It's a beautiful game. Scary as shit. The ambiance, the atmosphere is where it needs to be.
Music.
The fact that you're hit with, like I was saying, you go down into the space station and you try to say the Metroid and you see Ridley fly off with it. And then you have to actually, for the first time, race out of there. And it already gets your adrenaline pumping. You escape with a second's notice and you land on the original planet you were on. Which is Zebes or Zebes? Do we know?
Either or.
How do you say it?
I call it Zebes.
I call it Zebes too, but I guess it could be Zebes, but I also say Samus, and it should be Samus.
I don't know, let's call it Zebes.
I think it's Zebes. So you land on the planet where you have been before, and you start making your way down into areas from the first game.
Yeah, you're reliving sections of the original game, but they've twisted and turned and contorted.
You literally go down through where you escaped in the first game. And you see where the lair of the Mother Brain was, right there. And you're going, you see the empty capsule, you see all the stuff that was destroyed, and then you go down into the original area that you show up in the first game. So this game's already hitting you with nostalgia. It literally is just like, hey, have your fucking fix, let's go.
All right, let's go.
Then it changes it up. Where you found the morph ball in the original game, you find it in the same place, but then stuff starts to get different. And that's what this game does so well. It goes, all right, here's a little reminder, but you're done. Now we're
the world, you've been gone a long time. The world's changed since then.
Right. So, this game, the first time I played it, I think it was a single sitting. How about you?
It probably took me a couple nights, but yeah, I think I beat it in about a week or two.
And over Thanksgiving was the first time I've ever played that game to 100%. Had a 20-hour play. But
damn.
Man, dude, I went back and got every missile, every energy tank, found every bit of the map. I had to do the thing, and I had to do it right.
I couldn't do it.
And I was on a single sitting too. It couldn't have been 20 hours. It had to have been less than that. Maybe I did it in 12. But it was
it's a long time.
It was a ride and a half, man. It was fun. What this game does right is so many things. But for you, what is it that does right?
For me, it's the nostalgia factor. I really like that you're exploring the same world, but it's not the same. They make it very clear everything is different. You have new upgrades, you have new places to explore, some old callbacks to the original game, but it's not overly annoying like the first game is, because the first game had a lot of issues of some really bad backtracks, and it created this slugging feeling, almost like walking through mud. Like, oh fuck, I gotta go back again and get this item again. Oh, it's over here. Maybe that helped having the map and things like that in this game. Maybe that made the difference. But it was more refined than the first two games, I would say.
This game does so much right. In a lot of ways, it is a retelling of the first game. I mean, it ends with the same enemy, you're on the same planet, a lot of the same stuff, but it really does give character to all those areas. You have Norfair, you have Torian, you have... What's the other one called? My brain's skipping.
Brinstar?
Brinstar, thank you. You have all those areas, and they look in a lot of ways the same, just with better, more beautiful graphics.
Yeah, way upgraded.
Then they add new areas, too, which is really cool. The shipwreck, where you actually go onto a ghost ship, and you are haunted by a phantasm there that you have to defeat. The fact that Kraid is no longer just a little character. Kraid is 10 stories tall and a monster and a half shell.
Yeah, and he's shooting like those fucking claw things out of his chest.
Yeah.
Like...
One of the most terrifying things to me are the green alien-looking things in the wall, but when they're in the lava areas, they're actually skulls. Little details like that scare the fuck out of me, and the atmosphere that builds within that. And what's even cooler is occasionally you meet friendly characters, too.
They're very few and far between, but yes.
So this game, once again, has 4 major villains. It has Ridley Kraid, and then it has the giant-looking shrimp thing that's scary as fuck. I don't know if you ever saw that. But, like, he picks you up and he slams you with his tail.
Yep.
But when you fight him, there's little holes in the wall that you can use the grappling beam. And if you grab onto the wall, you can kill him in 30 seconds. Like, it's just done. Mm-hmm. Like, it's so cool. And then the Phantasm and the ghost ship, that really freaks me out, too. The sound design is amazing. The way that they use the sprites to really create these giant villains to fight. Like, there's just a scale to everything. And it feels real. It feels like a real world that you're in. And you can really get stuck in that world. I mean, if you play that game, like that atmosphere, like it will consume you. I did have nightmares after playing it, and it was worth it. That's all I'm going to say. And the final battle with the Mother Brain really brings the story together, because up to that point, you're creating the story in your head. But when you get to Torian, and you end up going into this small area where you just see all these creatures you've encountered during the game, but they're like dehydrated. They're almost dilapidated.
They've had the life just sucked out of them.
Right, and you move into them, and they're dust, and they just fall to the ground. And you're like, what the fuck's going on? And all of a sudden, you're walking forward, and a giant Metroid comes out of nowhere and grabs you, and you're running around, you don't know what the fuck to do. You're jumping, you're trying to duck, and you're trying to do bombs, you can't do anything. And then, you're almost dead. And then it stops. And it raises up. And it just chirps. And it floats away. And you're like, holy fuck.
It's the baby Metroid.
That's the baby. And that moment is enough to give you enough story, because the rest of the story was you playing the game. But that connection you have from the second game, from that opening, you know what's going on. And then you go down, you get your energy tanks, which is another cool thing they implemented in this game. They gave you stations where you could reload on your energy, or your missiles, or maps for the area. And
save stations.
Yes.
Don't forget those. Those are finally a thing.
Which were in the second game, we forgot to mention. They were in Metroid 2. But this one implements them way better and way cooler looking. They're like saving capsules. And then you go down into the final bit, and it's just the same as the original game. You're just reliving it again, and you get down there, and you start shooting those missiles at the Mother Brain, and it's going, hoo, hoo, and you're like, oh, this is cool, and you defeat it, and everything disappears, and it's just the Mother Brain on the ground, and Samus on the ground. And you're like, what the fuck's going on? And you just see the pulsating saliva of the mother brain.
Brain's not done yet.
Brain's not done yet. And it comes back. And what exactly happens again? Oh, yeah, you have to fight that fucker as it turns into a goddamn dinosaur.
Yeah, like some T-Rex looking motherfucker that's little arms. And...
Yeah, dude, it's some Godzilla shit. It's really cool. And then, eventually, it starts hitting you with the hyper beam. And hitting you up the wall. And you're down. And you're done. And you're about to be dead. And it's charging up its last shot. And then that second comes in the jellyfish. And it grabs its head. And there's the big struggle. And then the Metroid, basically, it takes all the energy out of the mother brain. And it floats over to you to give you all the energy because you're its mother. It wants to take care of you.
Yep.
And then, oh, dude, I love Super Metroid so much.
It's so good. It's so good.
I love it. So it gives you all the energy. And at that final moment, the mother brain comes back and it kills the baby. And in that moment, you have become super powered. And you've got the hyper beam. And you just go to town on that motherfucker. And you take her out. And that mother brain is no more. It's not come back. It will never be seen again. It'd be cool if it were seen again. But it will never be seen again. And then starts the final race to the end of the game. Which, that final race, man, that's hard. I'm not gonna lie. Did you ever die during that? Because I did.
I think I did once or twice,
dude, it sucks. And your heart drops when you die during that race because your adrenaline's pumping, you're feeling that timer countdown.
Yeah, and you're like, ah.
And if you go to the special room that's in the bottom right of the area that's up, you can actually save the little creatures. You can save the little ostrich and the little gremlins, and you can bring them on the ship with you. Did you know that?
I didn't know there was a special room where you could do that.
That's so fucking cool, dude.
That's
awesome. One of my
awesome.
favorite things about that game. Super Metroid is a classic. We could talk about it for hours. Hopefully we will. But yeah, what's your rating for this game? Just retelling that, I was like in the moment.
Super Metroid's S tier. Oh, that's classic.
Dude, that's S plus 10 times plus.
That's classic.
I think that is one of the most, it is a perfect game. I really do think that. It's a perfect game.
That is a peak Metroid game.
Yeah. Surprisingly, this series of games probably has two of those. So, let's move on to the fourth game in the series.
Zero Mission?
It's actually going to be Metroid Fusion came out first. Did you
know
that? Yep.
Okay.
Metroid 4, Metroid Fusion for the Game Boy Advance, released on November 18th, 2002.
I don't have a whole lot to say about Metroid Fusion. It kind of deviated from the formula of the Metroid series, but it really took a deep hold into storytelling, which I really liked. Mm-hmm. It flashes back to part of Super Metroid, or... Yeah, the Parasite... No, the Parasite came from SR388. Mm-hmm. So it's actually calling back to Metroid 2.
Right.
At some point, in the intro cutscene to Metroid Fusion, it flashes back to Metroid 2, where it shows Samus encountering this creature. It looks like a little frog thing that starts leaping, and eventually, she shoots it, and it turns into this yellow floating glob, and it floats into her. And she absorbs it. Mm-hmm. Then Super Metroid happens, and then after a little bit more time, Metroid Fusion. So...
Oh, I didn't know there was a time gap between those. I thought that just happened. She went back to the planet, and then they found the frog creature, and then it absorbed basically into her, and it fused with her.
Maybe.
Which is the fusion aspect. So they go...
I don't know, because I don't really know if they would have any reason to go back to 388 after Metroid 2.
She was acting as a bodyguard. It says it right there.
That's what it was.
Boom. So what we're looking at is the X-Parasite fuses with her, and they're able to remove most of it, but somehow it's still...
No, they're not able to remove it. That's the thing.
Oh, they're not?
She becomes infected, she passes out, she crashes her ship into an asteroid, and just in the nick of time, she is warped out of her ship and onto the Federation frigate. They take her into immediate surgery, and they cannot stop this parasite from spreading at all. It's totally corrupted her suit, and they're to the point where they're having to try to saw her out of her suit so they can even work on her. And it even mentioned at the beginning of the game, this seriously alters her appearance, her physical form. And you can just imagine how that kind of surgery would fuck someone up.
So does the second suit become the X-Parasite, the Dark Samus suit? Or is she still in that suit?
So, they're still trying to cure her. Well, then it hits them. Wait a minute, we still have cells from that baby Metroid from Metroid 2 and 3. They create the vaccine injected into her, and the Metroid cells, sure enough, fend off the X-Parasite
because
cells.
The X-Parasite was the natural enemy of the Metroid on the planet, correct?
The Metroid would consume the X-Parasite.
I see.
They kept the X-Parasite in check. Her armor is taken to this research station to be studied. She's left in the shell of of an exosuit, which becomes the fusion suit, part Metroid, part her, all Chozo power.
Boom!
And she is significantly weakened. Playing through all of Metroid Fusion, she feels clunky, slow. It's very underpowered, and the whole time you're running from none other
than the Terminator. I mean,
SAX.
Yes, which is her ex-Parasite version of Samus, who has all the powers from Super Metroid.
Yep.
So it's very cool because you'll have those moments where you have to duck, and that's something they implemented in this game. You have to kind of hide from this SAX.
Yeah, they wanted to give it more of a xenomorph type feel, like the original Alien.
Really, and it truly is, because you're on a space station the whole time. Mm-hmm. So the game's a little bit different. I would say it's not as good, but it has its moments, and it is fun to play.
It's worth a playthrough.
And if you're looking for something after Super Metroid that really will kind of tie you over, but it's not as good, and the final boss is kind of shit. It's just a Omega Metroid, basically, guarding your way to the ship. But I would say for the story, you're right. This game more doesn't have the open aspect to it, because it kind of
holds your hand through a lot of it, and when it lets go, it's very much like,
yeah,
what
come back.
What the fuck do I do?
Yeah, and then it's like, come back, I got you. Because you will talk to your computer, which is named Adam. She names it after the general that was in charge of her when she was part of the Federation.
Like a lieutenant or something that was over her.
Which was her friend, which actually comes into play into a later game. But you actually end up finding that the AI is a version of Adam when he died and put into the computer.
Or something.
So it tried to do a lot with the story that works. The story's fine. But you never really had a story in Metroid before this that held your hand and actually guided you through. So they were trying something different.
Yeah, it definitely feels like a break from form. Where I'll give it points is SAX is a really, really cool feature.
Yeah.
The Terminator.
Yeah, it's coming to get you.
And there's parts where it has you hide from it, but the parts that are even more intense is where it has you run from it.
Yeah.
Because that is Samus at her most powerful. And you are not that.
Yeah.
You cannot fight. You have to run.
It's pretty cool, though. I like the game. What do you give it a rating?
I'll give it a B.
I'll give it an A. I think I'll give it an A for this
one.
Because I really do like it. And I would like to go back and play it like right now. So it's really fun. And I think it does a lot of interesting stuff, too. And it's got a lot of Easter eggs hidden throughout it.
Yeah.
Like, I think in the beginning, Ridley's like frozen in like a...
he's frozen in the background or something.
Yeah, it's really weird. Like, it does a lot of weird stuff that very callbacky. And I remember enjoying it. And it is a shorter game, too.
It's very short, but it's very well done.
I would say you beat it in 5 to 6 hours. So,
I
was
over
super
a couple
pumped
days.
when they showed the Space World like footage for it. It's a lot different than what we got. But that's the thing I forgot to mention. These games are spaced out. Sometimes 5, 6, 8 years between fucking games. So whenever you get a game in the Metroid series, you are excited to get a game.
Yeah, because you're not going to be getting another one for at least half a decade.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, Ethan, I think we're at an hour already, so I think we're going to make this a two-parter.
Yeah, we're going to split this into two parts and pick up with Metroid Prime?
Yeah, I'm feeling that right now.
Dude,
so, everyone,
be a good one.
Thank you so much for listening. Check out all of our social media. Like, share, subscribe.
At QAttack5000 on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, as well as Twitch.
Yeah, so definitely check it out. We appreciate you listeting. This has been Duck. I've been here with
Ethan.
And remember, you ain't Billy Mitchell, bitch.
You ain't Billy Mitchell. Bitch.
Stop trying.
Just stop.
And there it is. Thank you so much for checking out the podcast today. If you have enjoyed it, please do not forget, share with your friends. That is how we grow the network. And if this is your first time listening, head over to your favorite podcast app, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, iTunes, and give We Are Podcast a like. And if you've enjoyed this podcast, you're going to love the other podcast here on the We Are Podcast Network. We have We Are Error, where we talk about movies, entertainment, whatever the fuck we want to talk about. That's me, that's Jake, that's Javi. We're breaking down pop culture, and we're having a blast. Don't forget Heroes-Gyros, a Dungeons and Distractions side quest. Me and the boys were sitting down, we're playing some D&D. We're having so much fun. You can go and start that from the beginning of the journey, Season 1, Episode 1. You're going to love it all the way through. And finally, I hate being sober. Personal stories from epic people. I'm going to sit down with some of the most epic people I've ever met in this world, and we're going to talk about their life. We're going to talk about their trials and tribulations, and we're just going to talk about their journey this far. Head on over to our social media. All links can be found in the description. You can find us at Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at /We Are Podcast. Also, head over to the Facebook group, We Are Error. We would love to see you in that group. And don't forget, if you've enjoyed the podcast today, share it with your friends. That's the only way we can grow this network. But with that said, I have to remind you, I can never let you forget this. You ain't Billy Mitchell, bitch. So stop trying. We'll see you next time.